Hey, are you looking to book a photography session, but you're not quite sure where to start? That's okay, because today we're going to be going over the 4 main steps, in my opinion, to finding a photographer and actually booking that session. Hi, if you don't know me, I am Colleen Rowland, owner of Colleen's Rustic Artistry, a photographer and digital art company. And today I am so excited to go over this topic because I have noticed it as a reoccurring question with a lot of my clients and with a lot of people just in general looking to get photographed. So let's get into the video and look into those 4 main steps. First and foremost, to getting a professional photography session booked and completed, you need to find a photographer in your area. Now, there are a whole wide variety of photographers in what is considered professional photography, and everybody has a different opinion about what equals professional. There are hobby photographers, paid photographers, long-time industry career photographers, part-time photographers. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what type of photographer your photographer is. What does matter is the quality of work that they put out and whether or not it matches up with the style and quality of work you are looking to get done. So, you're looking for your photographers. How do we find them? We're going to go to Google and we're going to go photographers in, insert where you live. That way it's going to populate the photographers closest to you. You also might want to reach out to friends and family and ask them, hey, have you used a photographer in the area? And if so, what did you think about them? Did you like their quality of work? Did you think the price was reasonable for what you got? That way you're getting recommendations and really seeing what people that you know and trust thought about people in your area, and you're finding people that maybe you haven't heard of before, because sometimes the undiscovered is some of the best. Now that you've discovered a couple photographers in your area, how are we going to pick the one you're going to use? To start, you're going to look at that photographer's portfolio. As you can see on the screen, I have put my portfolio up, and this is just a brief overview of what my page looks like. This is from my website, and it gives people an idea of the kind of work I put out. That way they know if my style is going to work with the vision they are going for. And then, after you look at a photographer's portfolio, whether that be on their website or on their socials, always check their website if they have one though, you're going to try and find a photographer's About Me section. Again, you can see on the screen a screenshot of my About Me section on my website. And this is to give people an idea of who I am, why I started my business, and why I do what I do. This way you can kind of see if we're going to click a little bit, because it gives you a little background about me, and that way you can determine, do we align in any way, or are we just going to butt heads the whole session? Now, as a photographer, you should never make your client feel like it is they're the problem, y'all don't get along. But when you're looking to book a photographer as the client, you do want to make sure you're looking for a photographer that you think you're going to enjoy working with. If you look at these photographers and you end up finding their reviews and you're seeing continual negative reviews of people saying the photographer was rude or they didn't produce the quality of work that was guaranteed, maybe it's going to be best to go on and find a new photographer to work with, regardless of how much you like the quality of work that they had published. But looking through all of those things, the photographer's reviews, the photographer's portfolio, and their About Me section, you're able to get a basic understanding of who you may be working with and whether or not they are going to work with you. So those are the first steps to finding your photographer and actually booking that session. After that, we need to look into the packages that photographer offers, how much money that photographer might be, what sessions that photographer shoots, and basically picking what works for you. So step number 2 is finding your packages. We've found the photographer we're interested in working with. Now we need to look into some other categories. And I want to backtrack a little bit, and we want to think, okay, what is our budget for this session? How much are we willing to spend? What is the number of locations we are interested in having photos taken at? How many outfits do I want photos taken in? How long do I want my session to be? And how many photos am I looking to receive at the end of my session? So let's break these down a little bit. Number 1, how many locations are you looking for? I offer and recommend a variety of locations to my clients, from a local public field to our local botanical gardens and a couple other locations. Each of my sessions offers some number of locations depending on the type of session and the length of the session. Something to be mindful of: if you are looking for 3 or more session locations, you are going to need a longer session time, because 90% of the time, travel from one location to the other is not excluded from your shoot time. So if you have a 1 hour long session, but you need to travel to 3 locations, you're going to shoot for a very small amount of time, especially if that travel time is very large. So once you figured out where you want to take photos at, you need to figure out how many outfits do you want to take photos in. A great example of this is going to be your senior your senior photos. Many seniors want to take photos in their cap and gown, and they want to be in the white dress or the nice blazer, that fancy outfit, to really have those timeless photos to look back on years from now. But on top of that, they want an outfit that resembles who they are, it resembles their style and their spirit. And then some that did extracurricular activities may also want a third outfit dressed in that activity clothing. So your cheerleading uniform, your FFA jacket, anything like that. Now, some photographers do say that your cap and gown is an image entirely of its own. Personally, I'm happy to combine your formal and your cap and gown, because you're not going to be naked under your cap and gown. That's just a quick and easy take on, take off. But you need to be mindful of this, and you need to be mindful that photographers do have different requirements for each of these categories. So once you figure out how many outfits you're looking to wear, regardless of the session that you're going to do, you need to look into how much time are you looking to shoot. Similar to the locations, if you have a lot of outfit changes, those take time. If I'm changing outfits 2 or 3 times, especially if I'm getting into a really difficult outfit, that's going to take away from the amount of time I'm able to actually have photos taken of me, which might lessen the number of styles and poses I get at the end of my session. So after you figure out about how long you want to spend taking photos, then you are going to want to look at how much am I willing to spend for this session. And on top of that, how many photos am I wanting to get back at the end? So personally, I have one session that guarantees you 20 photos with the price of your session, and my other session guarantees you 30 photos with the price of your session. And those are digital downloads. It's very important when you are looking for your session to know if you are getting the digital copy or if you are getting physical copies. Most people in the industry will give you digital copies nowadays, most photographers. However, there are still some photographers that do physical copies, and you have to pay additional for digital. Be mindful of that and talk to your photographer about that prior to confirming the session if that is something you are worried about and it is not explicitly stated on their website. And just be mindful of the number of images you're getting back. With me, if you come and get my 20 photo session and say you get your gallery back and you're like, wow, I really want 25 of these photos instead of 20. You have the option to purchase additional photos. That way you're not missing out on the photos you really, really, really want, and you are able to get everything, and you just know that beforehand. Now, you figured out all of these things. You figured out the type of session you're having, the locations you want to have, the budget you have for the session, the number of outfits you're interested in, the number of photos you want, and about how long you want your session to be. Mindful of all of this, that your photographer will then, once you book the session, go in and help you and refine these details, as they've been doing this for probably a while and they know a little bit more about these topics than you do. But they can go in and help give you advice and guidelines for all of these different variables, okay? So you figured out kind of what you want, knowing that you're going to talk to your photographer and refine this a little bit later down the line. Now you're ready to book your session. So step number 3, how do we actually book a session? In this day and age, many photographers have a booking website, which basically is a website where you log on and go into this website like you would any old other page, and you will look and find the different sessions your photographer offers. Choose the one that best fits what you're wanting, and you will then click in and it will tell you all the available times that photographer has to take photos for that session. Once you choose the time that works best for you, you'll go in, and depending on the photographer, there's a couple different things that'll happen. Sometimes you'll click that's the session you want, and it'll send it to the photographer, and you'll be done until the photographer reaches out. Personally, I require a little bit more than that. I have people come into my booking website, they choose their session, they choose their time, and before they can finalize their booking process, they fill out what is called a questionnaire. And on that questionnaire, it's questions like what locations are you interested in having your session, who's going to be with you during your session. So obviously if it's a couple session, I expect 2 people, but are you going to be bringing your kids with you maybe? Or are you going to be bringing a friend? Anything like that. That way I'm prepared for the number of people coming to this session, and I can adjust the session and make recommendations on session timing if we're going to have a large group of people. Other questions I ask is, how do you want your photographer to act during this session? I feel it is very important that I get feedback from people about what kind of style they're looking for. Are they looking for a very professional photographer where I don't try and cut up, I don't try and laugh with them? Or are they looking for a photographer that's going to maintain professionality but also be willing to crack a joke, laugh a little bit, make the session very light? That way you don't feel like it's this big deal. Because the best way to get photos that you are going to enjoy is to be calm and have fun. Another question I ask is, do you have any questions for me? A lot of people do not feel comfortable reaching out to photographers to ask them questions, so I want to make sure that I open that floor and I want to say, hey, what can I answer for you? I know you definitely have a question, so what can I answer for you? And 9 times out of 10, I have some question, whether it be what locations do you recommend, all the way to, is this even possible? Can we do this? With whatever their crazy, wonderful idea is. So that questionnaire from a photographer standpoint is very, very important because it allows us to help make that session and style it to you and your vision while also maintaining our artistic image. So after they fill out that questionnaire, it will be sent to me. Now, before you are able to confirm your session, I require a deposit, and it's become industry standard for photographers to require a deposit. And that, along with the rest of the confirmation, is part 4 to booking your photography session. So paying the deposit is not to get more money out of people in many photographers' eyes. And I don't want you to be alarmed when you go to book a photography session and you're thinking you're gonna pay $150, but now they're asking you for $50 that you're gonna be paying $200. I cannot speak for all photographers, but personally, and what I have seen the most across industry standard, is that the deposit the photographer requests from you is to secure your spot, and that will then be deducted from your session price. So say you're paying $150 for a session, that $50 comes off, all that you are left to pay is $100. That way, the photographer guarantees that you are actually interested in having this photo shoot, and this isn't just some one-off idea that you're not going to stick through. Because if we have 4 or 5 sessions we offer in a week, but we have 2 people register and then not show up, we need to be making sure we can still make a little bit of money. That way we're not losing and we are still able to hold this business and pay our bills. So be mindful that you will probably have a deposit to finally confirm your session. After that final confirmation of the deposit has happened, the photographer will reach out to you. That may be the first reaching out to pay the deposit, and then after reaching out with more information, or that may be you've already paid the deposit on the booking website and now the photographer's reaching out. The photographer will more than likely reach out to verify stuff that you said in your questionnaire, get a better idea of what you're interested in, recommend locations if you're unsure of exactly where you want to be, but you want a field or you want to do it in this kind of style. the photographer probably has a couple ideas up their sleeve and places they've shot before that they really like and they know produce good background for your photos. So once you have discovered all of these things, you are officially booked, and at this point you're waiting on your photographer to reach out to do all the final details and tell you the next steps, because they don't expect you to know it. They don't expect you to know exactly what you're doing. And that is why almost every photographer in the business is going to be open to you reaching out, asking questions, and trying to figure out what's the best way to book with them, or if you even fit with them, and that is where you are best aligned. I hope this first episode of Behind the Lens was able to help you better understand how to book a photography session with the photographer in your area that you like the most. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and stay tuned for next week's episode of Behind the Lens, a new series which is projected to be 14 weeks. I'm happy to make it longer if you have extra questions though. And it is the goal that I'm going to be able to share answers to questions and kind of give you the photographer's perspective on things and help you understand why certain things are done the way they are. And overall, it is to help you best prepare to capture the moments that mean the most to you. I hope this episode helped, and I'm so excited to see you guys next week. Thank you for sticking around through the whole video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and leave any questions in the comments.